Imagine being stuck in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by endless snow-covered mountains, freezing winds cutting through your skin, and not a single sign of life for miles. This is the story of two complete strangers whose lives were supposed to move in totally different directions until fate crashed them into each other. Alex was a confident, independent woman rushing to New York for what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, her wedding. Every second mattered. Every delay felt like a disaster. At the same airport, Dr. Ben Taylor, a skilled surgeon, was desperately trying to reach New York for a life-saving surgery. His reason wasn't romance, it was responsibility. But when their commercial flight was canceled and the next one wasn't until the next day, panic pushed them into making a risky decision. They decided to split the cost of a small private plane. Seemed like a simple solution. But it turned into the biggest turning point of their lives. At first, the flight was calm. Elderly pilot seemed experienced, and his loyal dog sat quietly beside him. But high above the mountains, something went terribly wrong. The pilot suddenly suffered a medical emergency, and within moments the aircraft lost control. Ben tried to help, but it was too late. The plane crashed violently into a snow-covered peak. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and silence swallowed everything. When Ben woke up, he realized the pilot was dead. Alex was unconscious. The dog had survived. They were stranded in a frozen wilderness, with no signal, no communication, and no one who even knew they had taken this flight. Ben, being a doctor, immediately treated Alex's injuries. She had a broken leg and several bruises. Temperature was dangerously low, so he built a fire using parts of the wreckage. The first night was brutal, the kind of cold that dose and tea just make you shiver. It makes you question whether you will wake up at all. The next day they spotted a plane flying high above and fired a flare gun, but it was too far away. No one saw them. That's when reality hit. They weren't being rescued anytime soon. Days passed. Their food supply started shrinking. Alex grew frustrated. She couldn't accept just sitting there waiting to die. Ben believed staying near the crash site was safer. She believed moving forward meant hope. After nearly a week with no rescue, hunger and fear forced them to make a choice. They would leave and search for civilization. The journey through the mountains was terrifying. Every step was heavy. Every breath felt painful. At one point, Ben slipped and nearly fell into a deep ravine, barely saving himself. Meanwhile, a wild animal approached their temporary shelter. The dog bravely tried to defend Alex, getting injured in the process. In pure desperation, Alex fired the flare gun directly at the animal, killing it. That night, they cooked the meat. It was survival at its rawest level. Slowly, something began changing between them. They were no longer just two strangers trying to survive. They were becoming each other's strength. One morning, Alex left a note and walked ahead alone, unable to handle the feeling of being stuck. When Ben woke up and saw she was gone, panic took over him. He followed her footprints through miles of snow until he finally found her. The relief he felt wasn't just about survival anymore. It was personal. They found a cave and spent the night there, talking honestly for the first time. Alex admitted she wasn't completely sure about marrying her fiancé, then revealed that his wife had died 2 years earlier after a long illness, and he had never truly healed. That night, under the soft glow of firelight and surrounded by deadly silence, walls came down. They weren't just surviving physically, they were confronting emotional scars. And in that frozen isolation, warmth grew between them. As they continued their journey, hope appeared again in the form of a distant reflection, something that looked man-made. But getting there was risky. Alex stepped onto what looked like solid snow, but it was thin ice. It cracked beneath her and she plunged into freezing water. Ben reacted instantly, pulling her out with every ounce of strength he had. Her body began shutting down from hypothermia. Carrying her through the storm, he found an abandoned cabin and managed to save her life. When she woke up, she saw him differently, not as a travel companion, not as a random stranger, but as the man who refused to let her die. They stayed in that cabin for several days, recovering. One evening, Alex listened to old recordings of Ben's late wife on his phone. He caught her and got upset at first, but eventually opened up about his grief. She apologized and hugged him, and that moment changed everything. Their connection deepened into something neither of them had planned. It wasn't just attraction, it Was understanding born from survival, fear, and vulnerability. In the coldest place imaginable, they found warmth in each other. Eventually, supplies ran out again, and they had to move forward. Ben built a makeshift sled to pull Alex when she became too weak to walk. After days of hunger and exhaustion, they collapsed under a tree, convinced this was the end. But the dog barked desperately and led Ben to a distant site of structure, possibly a factory. Hope sparked one last time. They pushed forward with their final strength. Just when they were close, Ben stepped into a hidden steel trap buried in the snow. His leg was caught, and the pain was unbearable. He told Alex to leave him and find help. Weak, starving, barely conscious, she stumbled forward until she reached a road. A truck appeared. She stood in front of it and collapsed. The next scene was a hospital room, warm air, clean sheets. They had survived. Ben walked into Alex's room smiling, but their emotional reunion was interrupted by the arrival of her fiancé. He thanked Ben sincerely for saving her life. In that moment, reality returned. The mountain had been simple compared to real life. They parted quietly, pretending they were stronger than they felt. And back in their separate lives, neither could move on. Alex realized she couldn't marry someone when her heart belonged to someone else. Ben tried to ignore her calls because he was protecting her future. But feelings don't disappear just because you avoid them. Eventually, they met one last time at a quiet restaurant. Alex confessed she had ended her engagement. She told him she found clarity in the snow that life is too short to ignore true love. Ben hesitated, still holding loyalty to the memory of his wife. Outside the restaurant, they hugged goodbye and walked away from each other, but only for a few steps. They both stopped, turned around, ran back, and embraced again, this time choosing love, not fear. So guys, let me ask you something. If you were trapped in the middle of nowhere with someone you barely knew, would survival bring you closer or push you apart? And if life gave you a second chance at love, would you take it? If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to the channel and drop your thoughts in the comments.